Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are discussing the imminent return of one of the best battleships in the game, at least for sure one of the best premium battleships that has been released in the past couple of years, and that is the Tier 10 American battleship, the Rhode Island. So the Rhode Island came out quite some time ago in a very expensive manner. You had to, well, either, of course, purchase a Admiral bundle that was way overpriced, right? Or partake in the random bundles to acquire the Rhode Island back in the day. And since then, she hasn't really been released since then, to my knowledge, or at least in any of the events that I've covered here on the channel. But now she is finally returning in the Black Friday event, which is taking place, of course, in the upcoming November update. And they might be thinking, Sealord, we're like a month away from that happening. Why are we talking about this now? Well, while yes, the ship isn't really coming back for another month, it's going to be expensive either way, because while yes, the Black Friday tends to offer a bit of a discount on the ships that are featured in the event, this is still either way going to be a very expensive bundle of pixels. The Rhode Island is labeled as a rare ship, which is actually surprising to me. I thought it for sure would be labeled as an epic ship or a legendary ship, considering how expensive this thing was when she first came out. But no, it is a simple rare ship. Which, okay, that decreases the price a little bit, but the standard price for a Tier 10 rare premium ship is still 31,000 doubloons, which in US dollars is $124. So while yeah, you might get a bit of a discount off of that, you're still probably going to be paying easily north of like 90 bucks for this ship. So we want to go over it a little bit in advance so that if you are planning on picking it up for the Black Friday event, I want to know if it's worth picking up for the Black Friday event. You have time to set some of that cashola aside. So the Rhode Island, what is it? How does it play? Is it still a darn good ship in today's World of Warships? We're going to answer all that and more in today's video. So starting out with, what is the Rhode Island? The Rhode Island is actually one of the prototype designs for the North Carolina class of battleships, which we already have one of those in game at Tier 7 with the Florida. And the Florida is, in my opinion, a pretty solid Tier 7 premium ship. The guns are really nice for dealing with cruisers. The horizontal dispersion is actually quite nice, considering that it's about the same length as most Tier 7 cruisers. And as you can tell, the main battery guns are made up of 12 guns. A lot of shells you're throwing at the enemy team there. But they are 14 inches in nature. So at Tier 7 with the Florida, that's pretty nice for dealing with cruisers because, you know, it's just enough to where you can easily penetrate cruiser armor, but they're not large enough nor traveling fast enough to overpin the crap out of those Tier 7 and Tier 6 cruisers like other battleships do. So like the Florida's pretty solid for that. Now the Rhode Island, you still have 12 guns, and they are still 12 14-inch guns at Tier 10, which you might be thinking, my god, Sealer, that's so teeny tiny at Tier 10. Which, yeah, those are some pretty small guns on a Tier 10 battleship, no doubting that. But the guns are so nice. The Rhode Island, with these 12 14-inch guns, you get a 22-second reload time there, and that is without taking the reload module. So that is the base reload time. Now, why would you not want to take the reload module? Well, that's because the American battleships, once you unlock that final mod slot, they can take the special American Artillery Plotting Room Mod 2 module, which gives you an additional 11% buff to the dispersion of your main battery guns. So now these main battery guns, as you can see in the background footage, are pretty dang accurate for a 22-second reload time, which means that it's very easy to get these shells on targets at Tier 10. Now, while yes, that kind of helps with the fact that these are 14-inch guns, they are still 14-inch guns, so there's plenty of shots you're going to take where those 14-inch AP shells would probably ricochet. That's true. But the HE on the Rhode Island is actually pretty solid, because you do have 12 shells. These HE shells have a 31% fire chance with the build that I'm running, which I don't believe, yeah, that's not even using the fire flag, so you get that pretty darn good 31% fire chance with that 22-second reload with the improved dispersion thanks to the module. You're going to be setting a decent amount of fires in my experience with the Rhode Island. And the HE shells actually have pretty solid ballistics. The AP shells actually have pretty decent ballistics as well compared to some other American battleships at this tier, but the HE shells are really comfy to shoot at longer ranges. Which brings us to the big secret of the Rhode Island. It's actually not really a battleship. This is actually one of the best tier 10 American cruisers, thanks to these guns and these HE shells. Now, don't get me wrong, like, when there's broadsides, please, by all means, pump, 12, 14-inch shells into the ship's broadside, because, yeah, you might be going up against another tier 10 battleship, but I promise you, they won't like 12, 14-inch AP shells hitting their broadside. Sure, it may not completely obliterate their ship as if, you were playing like the Montana, but it's still going to do a decent chunk of damage. But since we have those decent HE shells with the good dispersion and the good reload time, you can sling that at targets that are, bow in or angled to you and get a nice bit of damage off of those ships from just HE spamming and running around in the medium-ish range like a cruiser. So really, it is played like a run-and-gun cruiser, which, if you've played this game for any decent amount of time, you've probably played a couple of those. Now, what also makes this secretly a awesome tier 10 cruiser, not just a good tier 10 battleship, is the fact that you do get a very slippery ship here. The base top speed of the Rhode Island with the speed flag is 34.7 knots. But as you might have noticed down below, you get the engine boost consumable as well, which gives you a 50% buff to that top speed, and it lasts for 180 seconds. So for a decent bit of time, you are absolutely zooming around with the Rhode Island, and when this engine boost is going, this ship feels just like a very large heavy cruiser with the way that it handles. So she's nice and slippery, very, very maneuverable ship here, and you can use a speed boost to, juke shells or, get out of a bad situation. It's an amazing consumable to have here on the Rhode Island, and it just makes the ship so good at what it does when it is running. Even when it's not running too, the ship is still pretty maneuverable for a tier 10 battleship, right? I mean, it is, of course, a North Carolina hull, so you get that, tighter 890 meter turning circle radius rather than like the Iowas with their 1,000 meter plus turning circle radius, right? So she's a really, really fun ship to play in those regards. She's also relatively stealthy with a 12.3 kilometer concealment range with a build on it. So even if you can't like outgun the enemy or you're in a very, very bad situation, again, pop that engine boost, use that concealment to get out of that bad situation. And that right there is generally how the Rhode Island is played. You stay at mid-range, throw HE at stuff at range, pop stuff in their broadside when they show it with the AP, especially cruisers again, especially tier 10 cruisers. They have plenty of armor to arm those 14-inch AP shells, and they are going to generally regret it if they show you any amount of side that you can bite into. So that's how you play the Rhode Island at higher tier. Now, it's not all sunshines and roses with the Rhode Island either. There are some pretty big downsides. Obviously, for having, accurate guns with a good reload time and nice maneuverability and good concealment, there are some downsides too. Oh, also, I almost forgot to, its biggest party trick here before I go into the downsides. It does have radar. It has 9-kilometer radar, which is very useful for dealing with destroyers or cruisers in smoke. Excellent for that, or for radaring as you approach islands, because later on, you do kind of want to push up in the Rhode Island, use your AP to bully those surviving cruisers and such. Great for that. You do get a choice of radar or spotter or fighter. Obviously, you want to take the radar. And the hill. She gets a very quick cooldown on that hill of 38 seconds, which you're going to need because of the first downside of the Rhode Island, and probably its biggest downside is, well, its armor. She has a 27mm bow and a 27mm stern, and the armor all the way around isn't overly thick. You do get some 38mm upper plating on the side of the hull, but I mean, with a 27mm bow, you are going to get pinned by pretty much every single other tier 10 battleship you come across, with the exception of a very small handful of ships like the Mecklenburg. Ships that have those 305mm guns or those cruiser caliber guns like the Illinois. Yeah, sure, you can bow tank those, but most of the vast majority of the remaining ships they can just go straight through your bow. And if you've never played, the Florida, it is a pretty squishy hull regardless. Again, you got a little bit of 38mm plating going on up there, but you're going to get pinned, overmatched by most of the other battleships you run into, most of the other cruisers and such that you can run into. They, of course, can easily pin that 27mm that 27mm bow, and you do have a 38mm deck. Again, there's no shortage of heavy cruisers that can go right through that with their HE now. So yeah, the ship armor is very lacking, but that is what you're giving up for this maneuverability. And the HP, 77,850 HP, that's with the flag too. That's not a lot of health by tier 10 standards at all, especially with that armor scheme there. So it really is a very large cruiser at tier 10. And despite the fact that, yeah, its armor is pretty much non-existent by tier 10 battleship standards, and that it has an incredibly small HP pool for its tier, this ship is so much fun to play. Play it like a cruiser. Yes, the secondaries, I haven't mentioned those yet, but yes, you can build into the secondary guns. I wouldn't do that. The main guns are definitely where it's at with the Rhode Island. Now, if you're a secondary built Rhode Island and you're having a blast, I'm glad. I'm super happy for you. Keep on keeping on. Or maybe if you're rocking like an in-between build between the main battery guns and the secondary guns and it's working, go ahead. I'm very happy that you're having a great time. But for most of you out there, I would definitely go for a main battery build and play it like a cruiser. At the opening of the game, stay at the mid-ish to longer-ish ranges, spam HE, burn stuff down, and just kind of bide your time and, try not to eat too much damage in return. And then as the game progresses on and it's time to get closer, you'll have a pretty healthy Rhode Island that's very maneuverable. You probably got your radar still intact, so you can push in and help clear out those last remaining cruisers and destroyers that are using smoke screens and islands to hide behind. And now, you're running around with a very fast battleship with 77,000 HP, with your accurate, fast reloading guns. So yeah, this ship is an absolute blast, and it's so much fun to play in 2025. And when you have to deal with like the airstrikes and stuff, having a ship that's this fast is very nice, because those airstrikes, they take a second to get there. Also, the battleships, sure, if they're caught off guard, they can't really do much about it. But the Rhode Island is one that can absolutely just throttle up an engine boost out of the way and not care about airstrikes. Subs, too, because, well, you are very fast and very maneuverable, and battleships have that nice 2-kilometer disengagement range for the submarine torpedoes homing. So you shouldn't really have to worry about subs too much in the Rhode Island unless you get caught completely off guard and like you're already stuck in a turn. When they ping you and your damage con is off a cooldown. So yeah, she's great if you play her as a cruiser. I did, when I first got her, tried her as a secondary battleship. I had some success just given how, fast it is and how, good the American secondaries are at the full build. But like, the main battery build is much more useful in today's World of Warships, and one I would definitely focus on with the Rhode Island. So I would strongly encourage you guys to pick this thing up if you do like, the play style that I've been describing here in this video. If you like that, always on the move, large cruiser, HE spammy at first, and you swap on over to AP as you get closer and things get more serious. That is what the Rhode Island does, and she is fantastic at it. Now, keep in mind, this is the Rhode Island B we're talking about, so you do get the black camo with that Rhode Island. You don't get the default perma camo that you see here, and it will have the letter B behind its name, but besides that, it is literally exactly the same ship, the same parameters, everything else. And this is a great ship to put Halsey on, because it's so easy to get Confederate with the Rhode Island. Then you get that boost to the reload time of the main battery guns. Like you see here, I really do have like, friggin' heavy cruiser reload toward the end of this match, which is absolutely awesome, and just helps you get more damage downrange even faster. So Rhode Island, always a blast to play. I would highly recommend picking it up again if you like large cruisers, or really if you're an American ship enjoyer. This ship will do you pretty well. Again, if you like what we've been talking about here, and if that sounds good to you, I think it's very much worth picking up this Black Friday. Unlike the Puerto Rico, which that's going to depend upon how much that ultimate bundle that you got to buy cost. We do have a general idea of how much the Rhode Island is going to be, so depending upon the year and how Wargaming feels, I think it's anywhere from like a 20 to 30% discount on the price. So again, we're looking like 90s, maybe low hundreds for the Rhode Island here. Again, normally it's $134, $131 around there. worth of doubloons. But again, we'll see $124 worth of doubloons. So we'll see. I'm thinking, like maybe 101, 105, something like that for the Rhode Island, or like the doubloon equivalent, depending upon how Wargaming wants to do it this year. But yeah, definitely worth it if it comes up for that much. I highly recommend the Rhode Island, guys. So hope you guys enjoy. Have a wonderful Wednesday and wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.